Good day to our retailers and allied industries. This is Raf Layosa, founder and CEO of Retail Gate Technologies, your program partner and Chief Technology Officer of the United Neon Media Group. And welcome to Let's Talk Retail, one of the PRA's successful digital initiatives. We have a very interesting episode today because our guest is widely known as a different kind of doctor. He has helped numerous brands achieve sales success and create exceptional customer experiences. Moreover, on this episode, we will also highlight the current retail landscape, how the pandemic altered the retail industry, significant changes in the customer shopping experience, and how retailers with its partner industries can keep up with the pace and continuously adapt to the new normal. But before we jump right into that, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like the video, share the link to your colleagues. Also, hit the bell icon to get timely updates from the PRA. Of course, this episode of Let's Talk Retail is made possible by our premium platinum sponsor, Globe Business, and Vasava Consultancy as our sponsor. Now, to start off our thought-provoking episode, let's meet our guest. He is an internationally recognized business strategist, customer service expert, sales coach, marketing mentor, and author of 3 books and motivational business speaker. He has 30 years experience creating and implementing exceptional retail shopping experiences, a seasoned and skilled leader of executive teams, as well as product development and traditional marketing teams, an online virtual sales trainer for thousands of brick and mortar stores. He is also a leading expert in franchise development, franchisee support, and new business development, known for accelerating success in visual merchandising, sales strategies, and business makeovers. He was named one of the top retail influencers of 2018, a recognition he is humbled and grateful to receive. His website and blog have been named best on the planet for retail by Phibbs and was listed on over 20 retail influencer lists in 2018, often as number 1. He is a top voice on LinkedIn. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome on screen the CEO of the Retail Doctor, Mr. Bob Phibbs. Hi, Bob.
Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it, Rafe.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Bob. Now, we really want to get to understand that. I mean, when we think of that concept, the retail doctor, what does that really mean? Like, how did you become the retail doctor? What's that all about?
We don't have 5 hours, so I'll just try to give you the shortest version possible. But I put myself through college selling shoes. That's where I really first learned that retail sales was something that I was pretty good at, and ended up working with a bunch of cowboy stores back in the 80s. I got my degree in conducting. That's what I thought I was going to do, and got a minor in business. And, my part-time job became a career, and built a little group of stores from 4 to the largest in the United States, and the #1 increase of sales at South Coast Plaza. And I'm in a meeting with the owners, and one of them says, "What's a company's greatest asset?" And I said, "Well, that's easy. It's employees." And he said, "Wrong." And I was like, "Wrong?" And he went around the room and asked, I don't know, there's 60 other people, and no one gets the answer. And he goes, "It's customers. It's customers." And I was like, "Well, that's garbage." And I walked downstairs and I said, we built this business based on our employees. I can't work for a company that doesn't value its employees. Customers go anywhere. They're not going to be loyal to us. They're going to be loyal to our employees, and vice versa. And I'm out in 2 weeks. And I quit. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I went to a Tony Robbins seminar at the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles. In those days, Tony only did 1-day events. And the one thing I took away was, you better come up with a brand nobody can do better than you. And I literally left there. And the next morning, I founded the paperwork for the Retail Doctor, founded the trademark in the United States, and ended up coming up with a little coffee roaster going up against 2 Starbucks. The second was about to open 100 feet from his front door. People are writing letters to the editor. This is what's wrong with America. All these big brands putting the little guy out of business. And I went to meet the owner, and basically found out that he owed more than he sold in a year, and that he His sales been going down 10% every year over the previous year when a first Starbucks opened 10 blocks from him. And they're about to open another one 100 feet from him. And I said, so tell me, what are you going to do when that second Starbucks opens? And he said, I'm going to send them back to Seattle. I said, that's great. And how are you going to do that? And he took off his glasses and lowered his voice. He said, I haven't got a clue. And from that, we rebuilt his business. It went up 50% the first year, 40% over at the next. And I called up the New York Times and I said, would you be interested in a story about how the little guy beat the big guys? And they said, yeah. And I'm speaking in Manhattan, October 30th of 1997. And it's a Sunday morning. I go down to the Hilton. And on the front page, I flip it over. There's my picture saying, the inside story. I open up, and there on the entire top half of the business section is meet the category killer, Bob Phibbs, and told the story of how we had done that. That led to business makeovers in the LA Times, and writing several books, etc. But my brand was always designed to work with the best brands in retail and the distributor or store networks. And I am passionately about brick and mortar. I know that you have an awful lot of initiatives. You have an awful lot of supporters around that it's all about digital. I'm the guy when you are trying to increase conversions and you are trying to get that average ticket up. That's who they call is me. And that's why I work with the top 500 brands around the world and their dealer networks to craft a customer experience that converts. Because at this day and age, Rafe, if I walk into your, I don't know, fill in the blank, sporting goods, sewing, luxury boutique, if you don't make that sale, that's on you. That's not on the customer.
That is true. I mean, really, customer experience is the name of the game, and that is what really drives conversion. But about that, you shared that journey you mentioned very briefly. But when we think of that career you mentioned briefly earlier about when you started your retail career, what was that biggest hurdle that you encountered, and how did that shape your journey as you moved forward into becoming the retail doctor?
Now, are you talking about like when I'm in college or something like that, or as I'm you'll give me anything? All right. I would say that the biggest hurdle when I was younger was people didn't take me seriously. And so I was hiring people that were much older than me. And at that day, I do date myself, but it was, $2 an hour was not that unusual. We also paid a bonus program. And I think getting my mindset that there's always hope. Every day can be a good day. And that's been my North Star ever since I started. And that certainly has worked well with the pandemic when so many retailers, I think, threw in the towel, fired the employees, ducked and covered, and then lo and behold, in the United States, gripe that their employees aren't coming back. It's like, well, you showed them they didn't matter. And the best brands did hold on to their employees, and they are passionately serving their customers well.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. When you talked about it, it's very important to take note of how our employees can actually also really shape that customer experience. Now, when we think of your approach to treating these symptoms that we would typically see in our stores, then what's your approach, or what's your methodology there? How do you diagnose the problem in retail and then provide or prescribe the right treatment or solutions to those diagnoses?
Well, the right solution should always be me. So it should always be my online training, Sales RX, which is up there in our office now, which is my online training where I'm on 4 continents around the world, 10,000 people who've never met me. And, let's start from people quit bosses, not businesses. Mm-mm. In the United States, we're hearing that it's all about the great resignation, that so many people are quitting and they're not coming back, and everybody's trying to probably, it's much simpler. If you value and you train and you appreciate your employees and you reward them for doing the job and holding them accountable for that, then you'll be successful. But I think an awful lot of retailers got away from making the employees' day and thought it was all about giving more discounts and coupons and just open a bunch of stores because money's cheap, and ultimately diluted the brand that they once had. And that's why it's interesting to see so many luxury retailers around the world have closed operations, have shut down their wholesale operations into the discount world, and they have reclaimed the brand. And look what's happened. Michael Kors and some of these other brands, Ralph Lauren, that their stock has gone up because sales are going up and margin is going up, and suddenly people want them more. So it all worked together. Now, if you just go through and take the next step, which is it's really about making somebody else's day before they're going to make yours. And there is a process for it. It always works. You know, I don't think I'd love to think that I am just brilliant. I think what I am is passionate about understanding. We have to take the customer in a store, look at them the same way as a customer online, right? So someone comes into your store. If you just acknowledge that what it took for them to go into a store these days, right? They're half watching Game of Thrones on an iPad one night, and they decide to check some things out, and they decide to go to your store. Think what that takes to get in their car, maybe put on a mask, find a parking place, and roll the dice that someone's going to treat them nicely. That's a lot of steps they had to take just before they walked in the door. And then they're in a discovery phase. They're open to whatever is there. Now, here's the difference. You know, if I use an HP printer, so I run out of ink. I need a cartridge 54, and I need both a black and a color, right? Well, I don't need to go to a store for that anymore because I just need to fulfill that and get more of it, right? So I just go online, HP 54, done, and it's there. I don't need to go down to the local Staples, Office Depot, where they have their little scrunchie of keys, and they have to go and I have to ask them, could you unlock the sacred cartridge bins for me and pull out 54 for me? And I don't have to do that. But the danger is that the customer, the manager, the brand manager thinks that if I go to that Staples store and I ask for that HP 54, that's all I want. Woe to you. Because if that's all I wanted, I wouldn't be in your store. I'm in discovery phase, which means, yeah, I need this item, but there's a lot more that I'm open to. And then if you just build enough rapport with me and make me feel enough comfort that I browse and I take a look around and hopefully somebody at least has an engagement with me, then I'm going to go through and I'm going to be qualifying my choices. Yeah, I need this, but maybe there's something else I could do. And then maybe I light on something and I've got to compare and contrast it, or maybe I saw something cheaper online and someone comes over and they're like, well, yeah, we have that, but would you mention something that's a little better? Sure. And you have that conversation and you say, well, while you're here, have you ever had this experience? Yeah, that's horrible. Well, I could take that away if you get this product. Great. When I do that, I've moved through the 5 steps, right? But so many retailers blow it because you walk in the door and if they say anything to you, it's what? Can help you find something? You've already assumed I'm already going to buy that HP 54 cartridge and that's it. And if you just get me there, you did the job. Well, I could have a robot do that better than an employee. And so what have they done? A lot of CFOs have cut down the number of employees. So we say, oh, they'll just wait. They'll put up with it. And at the same time, I've cut out training. So an employee comes in and it's pretty little more than, can you work the shift? Great, you're hired. Great, there's the register. Here's how to ring stuff up. We're out. You worked at another company. We're good. And what most, I think the better brands, the better luxury brands that I'm working with right now understand is, wow, that didn't really serve us well. We have to be brilliant on the basics, which how do I engage a stranger? How do I build enough rapport? How do I become that trusted advisor that they'll come back to our store instead of just shopping whoever is the lowest or whoever's renting it to me this week? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's really about shaping that customer experience. And it really goes beyond that transactional conversation into having that connection. But with the way you were painting that picture, it seemed like you were hinting at there needs to be a level of paradigm shift in a mindset and culture of the company, and especially with the people, the frontliners facing the customers. Where can we really start making that happen? Where does it begin, Bob?
I think it starts with who you hire to begin with, right? So instead of just having a mirror, breathe on this, fog the mirror, are you alive? Great, you're in. We set some standards and we go through and say, is this person trainable? And do they want to work retail? Retail has been the bastard child of last resort for people like, oh, I had to work retail. Oh, it's horrible. I know people that make 100 grand a year working retail. I know people that love going to work in retail. I know boutiques where people are thrilled that they can work both in the store and use Zoom to be able to doing, instead of like waiting on you, they could say, hey, Rafe, when you, thanks for coming in tonight. Today, why not we set up Saturday, let's just go through your closet together. You can set up your camera and I can actually go through and see what needs to go out and what can be refreshed. Does that sound good? Like, yeah, she's making twice as much as she ever did because she loves what she does. So I think we start with that. Number two is we get out of hiring managers and then telling them you need to be friendly and support a crew and then make them task managers. Did you move this stuff from here to there? Did you fulfill those online orders? Did you get this right? Instead of, I need to develop a crew that will rise and sink based on our managers' abilities and give them the tools. How do I make someone else's, make my crew's day? And then give them training. And yeah, absolutely. Give them retail sales training, which is exactly what do you say when you walk up to them? How do you build rapport? You don't just say, we value every guest. You actually teach them. Here's what it looks like. Here's what it sounds like. Let's do role playing. Let's make sure that you do this just like we would if we walked in and applied for being a captain of a jetliner. You have to go through steps and then you have to be certified. And then someone has to say, like, yeah, he didn't kill anyone. Yeah, this guy, this gal is great. Well, we need to have a certification process in retail and then hold people accountable that, yes, we taught you to do this. And you've exceeded that, we're going to reward you, or you didn't get it, we're not going to promote you, we're not just going to give you more hours until you get it right. But that's a massive transformation, wouldn't you agree, even in the Filipino market?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a lot of work that you just spelled out. But I'd love to really highlight that one thing you mentioned. It's about getting the right people, right? Just like what Jim Collins would say, it's you got to get the right people on the right seats in the bus, right? But that brings us to that notion of thinking about building the winning team and then training the winning team. Where do you draw the line and make sure that you're really getting the right people first, and then you just upskill what they already have versus starting from scratch, trying
Well,
to
I think you
train
can
it out of
start from,
them?
I think when I've done business makeovers, yes, you have to start with what you have. And all you can
Mhm.
do is to say, here's a better way, lay it out for them, give them the training, give them the opportunity, right? Say, here's what we're doing, join me, let's do it. And give them that opportunity. And those who rally and jump into it and have fun, great, you're with us. And if you don't, you're gone. One of my clients, Rockford Fosgate, they're the world's leader in mobile electronic speakers and systems for cars and boats and motorcycles. And we implemented SalesRx across a bunch of their stores in the last year. But what was interesting is they put everyone in their home office through it first. And then they had their certificates that they printed out themselves, posted on their cubicles. And when I walked in, I was like, these guys are serious. And they're like, we are changing the way mobile electronics are sold. It's that simple.
Mhm.
When we brought SalesRx to the International Casual Furniture Association, we are going to change the way people buy and use casual furniture. But we don't approach that the same way when, we reward the CFO for how much he cuts, or we reward somebody for, not giving raises and promoting people. And here's the problem with all that, Rafe. They're going to take it out the back end anyway. They're going to give their friends discounts. They're going to find a way to undercut you, and theft is going to rise because there's nobody watching the store. Retail
Mhm.
has a huge theft problem right now, and thieves know it because it's short-sighted to think we need less bodies on the floor. Yes, you need less bodies that aren't trained, but if you just had people who believe the party is in the aisles, if I just get out there and join people, I'll enjoy my job better than dang customers. I'm going to sit here and wait for someone to walk up and ask me something, and their heads are down here. No wonder the thieves are having a great time. And you look at the major cities in America, San Francisco, LA, and others who are having these huge rings that are totally emboldened to go in and steal. How does that happen? Because employees it's not their store. They don't feel that they understand it, and they aren't doing the job of being brilliant on the basics.
I want to highlight that one thing you mentioned right there just a few moments ago. You mentioned they're not really there because it's not their store. So I understand. I take it from that there needs to be a sense of ownership even from our frontliners in the retail stores. How can we begin to really build that sense of ownership from the retail store frontliners?
If you're a bigger store, the days of you being the CEO and doing a glad hand 5 minutes around the floor, oh, hi, John. Oh, glad you're doing a great job. And you actually did the job of spending 30 minutes on the floor, and you just take somebody aside and you just have a conversation with them about what's working, what isn't. In America, there's a program, Undercover Boss, that was popular for a number of years.
Yeah.
And the idea that, oh, wow, the CEOs are going to go learn what it's like. Great CEO already knows what it's like. Great CEO, you look at the major brands that are doing well right now. You look at a Target, you look at a Walmart, you look at the teams they have built, and what they have come down to is they gave raises of minimum wage before they had to. They paid bonuses that weren't required by the government or anything else. They have done a big job of saying, how do we become the employer of choice, not just the biggest? And with essential retailing, if you were considered a non-essential retailer, you closed, and those brands were able to clean up. They were able to get much more volume just because they never closed. Well, this is a defining moment. This is going to be what I'm predicting is going to be a once in a generation great holiday season. Certainly in the U.S., notwithstanding Delta variants and everything else. But the reality is, we all learned it could all end tomorrow. Government can't protect us. Health department can't protect us. Our own family member might bring us home something that will kill us, and we are going to go out and shop. And and somebody's like, well, supply chain issues. I don't care. I was going to buy the $1,000 iPhone. Oh, I got to hold that up or it will show up on green screen. I was going to buy that. Oh, they're out. Well, I'll go spend that $1,000 somewhere else. But make no mistake, people are going to spend it this generation. And I think retailers who are listening to this right now, you have a once in a generation chance to change your fortunes. When you are looking out 3 and 5 years from now, and you say, we made a huge choice by saying, not anymore, we're going to take our employees for granted. Not anymore, we're going to take our customers for granted. And we are going to build the foundation that allows us to rebuild stronger. Then I think it's an exciting place to work. People see the future. They see how they fit into it. It's great. A lot of retailers, they had the cool whatever, right? They had some brands, hot items. And so this building kind of went up around it. And we had a lot of demand. Oh, people want to come and get all this, but there was no foundation. There's no sewer, there's no air conditioning, there's no electricity. So when things got tough, suddenly direct-to-consumer brands come in and clean up because you didn't have a great experience. You were just a price and promotion guy. And frankly, there's a lot of other people that are cheaper than you online and every other way. But we still come back to a brick and mortar store. I have been shocked at going to malls lately, and you would think it was the week before Christmas with the number of bags people are carrying. Yeah, we had back to school. It was very good, but the numbers we're hearing is double-digit increases over 2019. The consumer is back, and yet all we hear is, but we can't get anyone to work. Well, then pay them $20 an hour. I don't give a darn. Go through and walk through all those aisles of people waiting to get help and say, hey, if you know someone that can get who would like extra shifts, we give great training, we reward, and we are able to promote. Great, become that employer of choice. But we don't. Oh, it would have been great if we could get people just to work for nothing. That's not going to happen. But if you turn it on its head and say, but what could happen if we did train them? What could happen if we did increase our average check by 20%? What if we were able to increase margin by 5, 10, 20%? Suddenly, you've got a profitable business, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true, because the frontliners would really be shaping them. It's really up to them, or actually up to the leader, to make sure that these frontliners give that return on investment for their training, right? Now, when we think of that training in the current landscape, especially with the different levels of lockdowns in different areas, not just in different countries, actually globally, we're seeing a lot of lockdowns. How has that training changed, right? How's the landscape in training changed, and how can our leaders adapt and still make sure that their people get the right level of training that they need to deliver that kind of value?
Well, I think you have to start with training departments need people that know how to sell. Having people that know how to train is very different, right? I mean, part of the reason why I came up with Sales RX is because I would go and spend a day with a crew, and then the manager would turn to me like, well, how do we get this to stick? And I'd be like, buy a copy of my book. That's all I had. And so I had to really unpack and say, well, what are we trying to do here? And realize sales training, retail sales training is a lot like learning a new instrument or a sport or going on a diet. Yeah, let's take the diet. Yeah, you could buy a diet book. And if you don't read it, well, we bought the diet book. No. And what happens when you go through and you put down the bagel for a week? What happens on the third week? Well, you probably put back because you didn't change the behavior. So what has to happen? We need incremental change, and then we need to give it a long time for it to sink in and then actually make a culture of selling. But it's kind of like, learning tennis too. You could buy a book about tennis. You could watch people play tennis. But until you actually do a backhand 300, 400,000 times, you're not going to change the way you play the game. And so I think it starts with, what do they call training? Being nice to people. I was in a major retail conference a couple of years ago, and this brand, who you would well know, stood up and she's like, oh, well, we have a 45-minute video every employee has to see at least once every year. Like, that's not training. I don't know what you think that is. But training is a system of bite-sized lessons that bring you to a different result. That is check the box training. Oh, we did it. No, you exposed people to some ideas. And in all fairness, Rafe, I could say there's nothing I teach in retail sales training like, hey, the moon is made of guava and guacamole. Wow, that's amazing. I have to tell my friend. There's nothing like that. It all makes sense. But until you actually change from saying, can I help you find something? Well, I'll be over here. Can I help you find something? Everything's on sale for 20% off. Okay, I'll be over here if you need anything. Until you actually learn how to work a fitting room, instead of giving over to digital technology and saying, oh, well, we have digital fitting rooms. That's fine as a temporary solution. But here's the thing. The sale isn't complete till it's on her body. So why are we kidding ourselves that that's the end of it? No, that's a quick way to go through some things. But until she buys it, and with brick and mortar retail returns, especially in apparel running at single digits, something like 6 to 7%, and online at 40 or 50%, the numbers only work if you realize that we've got to get more people into brick and mortar stores. They have to convert at a higher level, and we've got to give them the feeling that they matter, because people who feel they matter buy more, and those that don't. That's why so many brands went out in the last year or two. There's nothing exceptional about, oh, you were cheaper than 1 week only, 1 day only. We were this. Till people are willing to go in there and buy things at full price, you don't have a brand. You just got a warehouse. And I hate to tell you, but the company, Amazon is a big warehouse, and it's already connected to an amazing database. They got that covered. So what do you add? CFO, CMO, CEO is listening to this, watching this. Because ultimately, if you can't craft that vision, I can guarantee your employees can't. And if they can't, they don't know how to give it or demonstrate it or fulfill it. And so it becomes kind of a blind leading the blind, doesn't it?
That is true. I mean, in the absence of a clear vision and mission on that note, or even just the lack of effectively communicating that, can really get people lost along the way, especially with the fast-paced work that we have and the fast-paced rhythm that we have to go through day by day, especially in retail, right?
Well, now, every day, don't you hear like somebody new has a new technology? There's a new thing. There's a new shiny object. We should go there. We should do that. We should do that. There's only so much you can do. And I say, just think of it as a target. All that matters is that middle, is the customer. That person that walks in the door, that rolled the dice to walk in. Did it convert to a sale or not? I do not believe, we put a rock climbing wall in. No, we'll put a skateboarding thing. Yeah, that's great. And is that improving conversions? Well, no, but we don't need to do that. Well, why not? Because a business exists to make a profit. So if you're going to change the metrics and say it doesn't matter, someone's job relies on it mattering, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Now, when we think of that, you mentioned about the importance of training and really changing that approach to customers in the store from just being task managers or really taking what asking what they're looking for and giving it to them towards really building that meaningful customer experience, right? And that connection. You were really pointing at the importance of culture, right? And how do you begin to build that kind of culture in the organization, especially with our frontliners, as for so that it'll be more sustainable and long term versus like a short-lived impact of a training? How do you find that
So
right
I'll tell you,
rhythm?
I don't know how long ago it was. Might be 20 years ago. You'd have to check on this. But I walked into this store and there was something very different about it when I walked in. And
Mhm.
on the wall was this like 24 by 36 poster. And it was like, you know, do something different, learn something new every day. You are not defined by your mindset, you're enabled by it. And I just look at this, I'm like, this is amazing. What is this? And I meet the manager and she's like, oh, let me tell you about it. And she goes on to tell me that every Sunday night, their crew meets, they do in all their stores, and they go through and they have a meeting and talk about the employees' goals for what they want to do with their life. Has nothing to do with sales goals, has nothing to do but personal development. That company is Lululemon, and they still do it. And
Wow.
when you look at greatness and you say, oh, well, I could have done that. And you look at the seeds of what it took, and you look at Lululemon, who now everyone's like, oh, athleisure. Oh, they were just in the right time. No, they carved out a brilliant idea, a brilliant philosophy, and they were able to get a lot more money to buy their products than anybody else. You look at a Starbucks roastery and you look at the passion that those young people have in various different positions. And I've been in one in Manhattan several times. And you look at, they feel it's a privilege to work there. It's not like punching a clock. I think it starts from the CEO saying it matters what our employees feel. Now, I'm not saying, and we need to ever give everybody, 2-hour breaks and we got to give them all paid leave and trips to Disneyland and free college and all that. No. Where what much is expected, much has to be given. So if I'm going to set a sales goal for you, you better make it. And then you better help other people make it as a team and build raving fans in your crew. I am all over that. But see, the problem is that the big boys like a Target, like an Amazon, are working on this every single day with numbers of people in different departments. What are you doing in your brick and mortar store, in your 2 locations? People are saying, but I'm short staffed and I can't. When do you change the dynamic and say, but what if we could? See, that's the difference. When I got the highest increase in sales at South Coast Plaza, #1 mall in the world, and the owner came down to me, he's like, what the hell are you doing down here? Selling cowboy clothes. I go, it doesn't matter what I'm selling. Yeah, but you're up against Nordstrom and Tiffany's and all these others. It's like, it doesn't matter. Because if I just make somebody feel for those 5, 10, 20 minutes that they're the most important person, I did my job. And if I'm waiting on one person, that's great. If I'm waiting on 5 or 10 or 20 or whatever it is, that's the mark. And if I do that, then everything else happens. And it's just a very, very easy thing to explain, but things get in the way, don't they, Rafe? Oh,
Yeah.
COVID, we can't. Oh, we can't. We've got, yeah, you could. Oh, well, we can't because now we don't have a, yeah. Actually, you could. Quick story. So SalesRx. So last year, one of our clients is outside of Dollywood. That's a big amusement park, kind of like Disneyland, but for Dolly Parton in Tennessee. And the local press is like, well, Dollywood will not reopen for 3 or 4 years. People aren't going to be able to go to tourist attractions. This thing's going to be horrible, et cetera, et cetera. And God forbid you're in the apparel business. And so Marlene has a 3-story store outside of Dollywood. And she goes, I don't care. We're going to double down on SalesRx. Every day she had her employees do a lesson. They did a Zoom call the next day. They did role play back and forth. They reopened 3 months later and they were up 20% over 2019. And they have continued that journey since. And she laughs. She goes, people's like, yeah, no one's buying apparel. I know. And we just can't get enough of it in. But what did she do? she said, what if they're wrong? See, that's the thing. Why are we giving over retail's hope to the pundits who are dying to write retail's dead, no one's ever buying again, no one's ever going to go into a store, it's only going to be, Amazon, and it's going to have a chip on our neck that gives us cheese, and that's the way it's going to be, just give up. I'm not that way. And a lot of other brands are suddenly realizing, wow, we could do so much better if we would just focus. And that's what I'm hoping that your listeners do today while they're talking to me. It's funny, when I was listening to your intro to me about what kind of advice I give, I'm kind of known as blunt. I'm not on the one side, we could be this, on the other. I've worked with too many retailers, and the success on the other side is really aligned with how do I end up making my crew feel rewarded, trained, ready for battle, and held accountable. And then what are the holes in my competitors who aren't doing any of those things, and how do I exploit that better? And I think that's still the secret, no matter where you are in the world watching or listening to this.
And that's really powerful. I really love that, Bob. And what you mentioned about that, I really love the level of intentionality in that story you shared. That it takes that level of intentionality to take a stand and say, no, we will not accept what other people are saying, that retail is dying, that COVID has outrun us, but we actually have to focus and just keep on doing what we need to do, and do it the best way we can to outrun this pandemic. And I love that, right? But now, in this landscape that we're seeing with all these restrictions left and right now, how can leaders communicate that level of intentionality and passion for the retail business despite these limitations that we are now seeing?
Well, you need to have passion to begin with. I mean, I obviously love what I do. Might show a little too much here on today, but either you love it or you don't. It's not a job. You enjoy developing other people. You enjoy meeting that customer where they are, and whether they're online, in store. We used to just call it shopping, and some people are so dedicated to what channel do they come through. At the end of the day, did they buy from your company or not? But I think that it still starts with the brands that were successful. I know a luxury brand, for example, that and announced that they paid for their health premiums for their employees while they were on furlough. And that made a lot of sense, right? Except when they came back, they actually billed those employees for it. So all they were doing was fronting the money. It was like, did you really do that? Like, yuck. And then other people are realizing that, what are we going to do to make our employees feel secure? So it's finding ways to have childcare for their kids, and finding ways that they're rewarding them, they're paying them if they're vaccinated, or they're going through and showing, look, we're in it for the long term. In the short term, if you don't feel comfortable doing X, Y, and Z, we'll find a place. But whatever they've got to work with, it's still a shared spirit of, we are going to do this, versus this is happening to us. No, this is happening for you. This is the time innovation happens. This is the time you think, wow, this is amazing. We went through and actually refilmed all of my online training just 2 months ago, because at the same time, I lost 40% of our business was gone. I traveled 140,000 miles in 2019. I flew 10,000 miles last year. And at some point, it all comes to us like, oh, but what if? And it's like, well, yeah, you could go there, or you choose to take your choice muscle out and you say, yeah, or this is the time I need to innovate. This is the time I need to be brilliant on the basics. This is the time I need to get another voice in here and get me out of that. This is the time I need to get rid of that dead wood who has been holding the caboose back and saying, no, we need to go over here and give up on the stores. I think that's the big miss story in 2020. Suddenly brands realized, holy crap, the biggest asset we've got is our employees in our stores. And now leveraging that to find a new way to deliver greater value, instead of just coming out with another promo with $2 off, friends and family only this weekend for 3 days, which is extended for days 4 and 5. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, that is true. And definitely, I love that you mentioned how even big brands found themselves realizing that the biggest asset is actually our people, especially in our stores. They're the ones that really running the business, right? Now, when we look at the retail landscape before and during the pandemic, even right now, as even while we're rolling out the vaccines, how has the picture changed, or has it even changed really in the first place? How significant is that change, and how should we be responding in order to not just survive this, but even win this landscape?
I don't know. We have enough time for that. That's a long question. But I would say that before the pandemic, I think a lot of people took brick and mortar retail stores for granted. I think particularly in the local markets, people said it doesn't matter. And as they started hearing that these were people who were their family and who were going out of business, and as businesses started to change, right, they started to be, you know, the corner store who ended up bringing in rice and flour and other things to stay around and to serve their communities better. As people started to realize, like, wow, it does matter if these stores are open. You know, let's face it, 2019, certainly in the States, we were overstored. We still are. There's just too many places to buy too much of the exact same thing. And we did have to go through and shutter a lot of marginal players. There's a lot of consolidation that happened, a lot of marginal brands. But here's the thing, there has been this uprising of entrepreneur spirit. In fact, there are more small businesses that have been formed in the last year than ever before. And a lot of them are women and people that don't necessarily look like me. And that's great. They look like our customers. They look like our families. They look like America or like Philippines or wherever it is in the world. But there's a lot of hope out there where people are saying, you know, I've always wanted to do this. I think I can. So I think that entrepreneur, you know, I used to be in the coffee business as well. And the first wave of coffee aficionados were the kind of coffee geeks that, you know, would, how many parts per million coffee are in this, et cetera, et cetera. And they were like a small group. In fact, that's one of the guys that was my first client 30 some years ago. And then the second wave was the people went to the big stores like Starbucks and Pete's and all these other big chains. Well, now the third wave is all of them are kind of coming back to that first wave, and they're opening their own little stores, and they're saying, you know what, I don't have to be a global brand. I can just have one or two stores in my local area. And that's going for apparel, that's going for hardware, that's going for a lot of different things where people are taking all that they learned at the bigger areas and they're bringing that back in a more connected way. And I think it's an exciting time for retail if we're willing to say this is a great time. And we're not just being bitter and saying, but it's not like it was. It never was. It's always been about change. You know, it's funny, in the US, people are talking about how great, oh, department stores are back. Oh, I guess they're not so bad. Well, yeah, they didn't really go anywhere. It's just the media turned against them and said no one will ever go. And then when people came, they had to have a different story and say, well, instead of saying they were wrong, oh, I guess they're trying new things. Look, retail is a huge ship, and it is out, been on rough seas for a long time. And make no mistake, there are a lot of publications that are already written. It'll be the worst Christmas. No one will be there. Delta is killing us. No one is coming in. Consumers have too much debt. Fill in the blank. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
But for a retailer, they are endlessly hopeful. Nobody would open a store and say, you know, I hope enough people come in the door that I'll make margin and be able to live the life I live. And so we are resilient. We are hopeful. You know, I had a woman talk to me last November. I did a lot of webinars, and she said, I want to let you know, she was in Canada. And she said, it's back in March. I've just fired all 18 of my employees because I don't know when we're going to reopen. We've been in business 59 years. We're a music store. And I've turned off all the lights and I'm crying. And I come to my desk and there you are saying, in hope I'm fearless. And she goes, it's only because I listened to you every week for a year telling me we're going to get through this. You're going to be fine. And gave me tools I needed to put seeds in to say we're going to come back stronger. And she goes, you know what? We reopened. I'm ready for my 60th year and we are ready to take no prisoners. And I was like, great. But I said, you're the one that did the work. See, we all have that ability, my friend. We are about as happy as we make our minds up to be. Every day can be a great day. But that's why people shop. And I know we're running out of time here, but remember, people who are hopeful walk into a retail store at 10 a.m. If they're depressed, they're at the bar at 10 a.m. So why don't we meet them with people who are hopeful, who are excited to be there, who are well trained, who like to experience? Maybe I can't afford a $20,000 Chanel outfit because she didn't make stuff for guys. But regardless, right? Maybe I can't afford that, but I can experience the thrill of somebody else doing it. And that's what makes it fun. Because then you're a running buddy, you're having fun with other people. So
yeah, definitely. And I love that story. I mean, that's a real testimony to your being the retail doctor. And that's no surprise then that you were awarded the World Retail Forum's Innovation Leadership Award in 2020, recognizing your efforts through just like in that story, to help retail recover stronger from COVID-19 through that online training platform, Sales RX. Can you tell us more about that, Bob?
yeah, well, as things started coming down, we realized that there was going to be new protocols that people would have to be doing, whether it was health, just a simple thing of pivoting conversations, teaching people that, look, people are hopeful. When they walk in your store, they don't want to hear about your fears and, mask up and get out of here and all of that stuff. They want to still feel like they belong. So we had to train people, how do we do this? And then we actually took off the paywall and let people come in from all over the world and actually take that training and go through and be able to bring their crew up to speed, and just realize that, again, it's about the customer's experience. It's not about what your fears are. And I get it. There's a lot we didn't know. It's amazing to me to think, Rafe, that just 3 months ago, New York City opened. I'm going down there to see a show in 4 or 5 days for the first time in a number of months, and to realize that we have turned a corner. So back then, it's about realizing that bite-sized training that people are not realizing they need, that you can't change behavior by a memo or reading a book. You actually have to learn, you have to do it, you have to practice it, see if it works, and then you try it out with your crew. And you know what? The best thing I hear from people is, well, I guess you can teach an old dog new tricks. Or one of our testimonials, Steve said to me the other day, you took us from being a good sales crew to a great sales crew. Well, that's it. Because if you just improved your sales, and here's a quick exercise you could do, and I know we're almost out of time. There's a simple way to grow your sales 30%. It's real simple. Let's say you have 2,000 customers in an average month, doesn't matter how much, just increase that by 10%, 2,200. So that's going to be your marketing, that's going to be your crew. Your average sale, just increase it 10%. So it's $55, it's got to be 60. Can you do 10%? Yeah. Average number of items went from 2, can you go to 2.2? Yeah, absolutely. And when you actually pencil that out, you can actually grow your sales by 30%. But who is that dependent on? Growing transactions means who? Your crew. Growing your average ticket, who's that dependent on? Your crew. And average number of items per sale, and who's that? Oh yeah, it's your crew. Until you focus on the crew, I think you're going to be chasing the shiny object of, oh, it's beacons, it's Wi-Fi, it's WhatsApp, it's QR codes, it's VR, it's AI, it's all right, which they all have their place, they all add, but the focus is conversions and building those 3 performance indicators, and that's ultimately what they're paying you to do if you're on this podcast. Someone at some level, whatever you are, wherever you are in that food chain, you're the CEO all the way down to the warehouse worker, someone is paying you to be able to do better at whatever that job is.
There you have it. I mean, that's a very, very clear diagnosis from the retail doctor. Now, to close this off, Bobs, as the retail doctor, what would be your prescription for the retail owner that's listening to our podcast today, or even the small business owner that started their own small retail business? What would be your prescription for them?
Number 1, turn off the news. Number 2, stand there and just watch your crew on a busy day and see what they do. Number 3, look in the mirror, because the reason it may not look the way you want it to be is you, not the economy, not someone else. Then go through and take a look at, what does an exceptional experience look like? How would you take somebody from discovery, qualifying, all the way through the sales process to buying? If you don't know how to do that, well, certainly you should check out salesrx.com. So certainly see how I do it. And then look inward and say, are you accountable for this? And the one I always use is, What's your ultimate why? Why are you doing this? Some people say, oh, well, I do it to make more money. That's not a reason to get up in the morning and have those hard discussions like, Jane, you're fired, right? What's your ultimate why? It could be one customer said, I'm not going to lose the store like my grandfather lost his store. I was like, wow, okay, that's a clear vision. Another guy said, I just had a newborn baby and I need to show my life is an exceptional example to him. And so I have to lead my team and we have to grow this brand to a level unseen. Everyone's going to have a different one. But if you aren't clear on why you're doing this, then I think you end up settling. And we're known for our compromises more than our successes. You look at those Olympic athletes. Yeah, the ones that got the gold, et cetera, they're fabulous. But also all of those people that showed up, they had that same dream and they were very clear on that ultimate why. So be clear about that and then just take one step towards that. Who do you need to fire? Who do you need to reprimand? Who do you need to reward? Who do you need to give more authority to? Who do you need to train today? And then just consciously say, am I doing everything in my power to increase conversions and add-ons? And you'll be successful.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that, Bob Phibbs, the retail doctor. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the very diagnosis and prescription from Bob Phibbs, the retail doctor. Thank you so much, Bob, for joining us for this episode. We're so much better for it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's another episode of Let's Talk Retail. We hope that you were able to pick up a lot of ideas that you can use in your own businesses. Meanwhile, we would like to express our gratitude to our premium platinum sponsor, Globe Business, and sponsor, Vasava Consultancy, for making this episode possible. This has been Raf Layosa, founder and CEO of Retail Gate Technologies and Chief Technology Officer of the United Neon Media Group, your program partner, and we'll see you on the next episode of Let's Talk Retail. Till then, let's continue to build meaningful relationships. Stay safe, and we'll see you then.